Good day, and thank you for joining me. In this update, we will be taking a close look at the upcoming weather pattern, which is shaping up to be the most promising I have seen for early to mid-December in all my 7 or 8 years of producing these videos for you here. It genuinely appears that we are in for repeated waves of very cold Arctic air, along with multiple opportunities for snowfall. We are currently tracking a major snowstorm moving across the Midwest, the Plains, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley. We will also be examining a system forecast for the East Coast in just a few days, and now the forecast models are beginning to suggest even more activity is on the way. We are certainly looking at an exceptionally active pattern ahead of us. So let's begin by examining the current conditions. Very quickly, I want to show you this massive snow system that is currently in progress. You can see just how many states are being significantly affected by this event. As we take a closer look, we see portions of Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, where Ohio State and Michigan are playing at 12 o'clock. The game will likely be over by the time you are watching this. It is quite remarkable to see Indiana, Ohio, and even northern Kentucky all experiencing impacts from this storm. The primary quadrant of heavy snowfall is located right in this area. Exceptionally heavy snow is already accumulating, making for a very serious situation. Now, let us move on to the model guidance, beginning with the European model. We can see this system moving through. I have been mentioning in our Discord channel, which you can find linked in the description and the pinned comment below, and we would be delighted to have you join the discussion that this storm's timing is noteworthy. We can see that if the football game were held in the evening, say at 7 post-meridium on Saturday right there in the town of Ann Arbor, Michigan, we would likely be seeing more moderate to heavy snowfall moving into the area. The field would probably be covered in snow and visibility would be very low. So we did miss what could have been a truly memorable situation, although I do expect some flakes to be flying during the game, which will be quite a sight to see. However, enough about that, as this is a weather channel, not a sports channel. I must remind myself of that from time to time. By tomorrow, we see that low-pressure system moves up into Canada. Some lingering snowfall remains for the Great Lakes, and we do see some new snowfall beginning in the interior Northeast, mostly light to moderate in intensity as the system passes through. By the time we reach Monday, the first of the month, that system will have moved out, but we can already see a second snowstorm beginning to form. Here we have this northern piece of energy and this southern piece of energy where both jet streams are converging. This is poised to create a very interesting situation for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So let us watch how this develops. That is Monday the 1st. As we head into the morning of the 2nd, we see a great deal of that snowfall over the Midwest. It moves through the Ohio Valley and into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, where it is expected to intensify by the time we reach that evening. This is 7 post-meridium on Tuesday. We see moderate to heavy snowfall for Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, with New York City right on the edge. The same is true for coastal Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Boston. Southeastern Massachusetts is also in a position where the precipitation could be snow rain or a mix of both. If we see the storm track trend any farther south, or if colder air moves in, that could become a significant snow event for them. However, if we see any northward trends in the track, it will likely be more of a rain event. So the forecast for these areas is still uncertain and will likely come down to the wire. But heavy snowfall is expected for southern New England, southern New York, northern New Jersey, a large portion of Pennsylvania, and back into Ohio and West Virginia by this point. As we reach a little later in the day, or rather later in the evening, as this is one ante-meridium on December 3rd, which will be a Wednesday, we see this low has become very strong down to 985 millibars. This is a very strong nor'easter just offshore. We have heavy snowfall from southern New York into southern New England, and then into parts of southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and coastal Maine, where significant accumulations are likely. I believe this southern New England and southern New York area is the one to watch for potentially the highest snowfall totals from this event. As we continue, the storm comes to an end by the time we reach later in the morning on Wednesday the 3rd. Once it is all said and done, we are left with very cold air in its wake, and we see some lake effect snowfall occurring. We also get a clipper system, as you can see here, around Thursday the 4th, that moves into the northern plains and upper Midwest. This brings some light to moderate snowfall to the Midwest Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast around the 5th and 6th of the month. At this very same time, we have a great deal of northern energy diving southward and a perfect jet stream setup that would be ideal for a snow event in parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. However, this southern stream is just a bit too far to the south on this particular model run. This forecast is for about 6 or 7 days from now. So in theory, this could be a time frame to watch carefully around the 5th, 6th, and 7th. I am certainly keeping an eye on that period for perhaps another interesting situation for some of these areas. On this particular run, we see it does not quite come together as the low-pressure system develops too far to the south. Then we see another storm system. This one affects parts of the Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic around the 7th, 8th, and 9th as more Arctic air moves in. Then we get this interesting setup once again. We see an active northern jet moving through, but farther to the south this time. The southern jet stream appears to want to merge with it. We already have a strong low there over the Gulf states, and as you can see on this model run for the 9th, here we see a deeper southern winter storm possibly affecting Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Virginia. The pressure is 989 or 998 millibars there off the coast of South Carolina. This is a true nor'easter. It appears to want to track just like this. This would present an opportunity for these areas, but this is far out. This is about 11 days away, so please take this with a grain of salt. This is certainly subject to change, to say the very least. As we head towards Wednesday, we see this system start to pull up the coast, bringing some heavier snowfall to the upper southeast and lower mid-Atlantic, but then it does not quite make it up to the northeast. We continue to see very, very cold air in place. And interestingly, while this is happening, we also have a clipper system. It is moving through at the same time up here in the upper Midwest, bringing some light to moderate snowfall. And that system does make its way through the Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast as well. Then we get yet another clipper system here for the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. As you can see, this one moves through right to here. The jet stream, however, is typically diving a little farther south than that by the time it arrives. We also have this piece of southern energy that looks primed to take a track up the eastern states. Again, there's plenty of cold air in place, and this could put these areas on high alert once more. So that makes about 7, 8, or perhaps 9 opportunities. That is a remarkable number of potential snow systems over the next 15 days. It is an incredibly active pattern. So let's see where the GFS model agrees. It certainly shows our current snow system. It also shows the East Coast storm. However, this model places the rain snow line a little farther to the north. We can see New York City is not even in the mix for snow. They are definitely in the rain along with Providence, Boston, and Philadelphia. The GFS model shows this even more clearly. So this forecast is a little farther northward for the interior mid-Atlantic and northeast. This tells us there is still some disagreement among the models. That system then moves out. We do see some frequent clipper systems moving through, and another East Coast threat appears around the 6th or 7th. This is the same time frame that I mentioned earlier. The same time frame the European model suggested we watch. So we do see some snowfall appearing here within the 10-day range, which is not necessarily the long-range forecast. We certainly have some time to watch this. That system does move up into the northeast. Then we get this type of setup where if there were Arctic air moving into the east, you would have an ample amount of energy out here. But what we end up with is the northern jet moving through with a weaker low-pressure system. Our southern jet is separated, and we have another weaker low down here as well. So everything is somewhat separated on the GFS model run around this time. We do get another threat for the East Coast and the Ohio Valley area around the 8th, 9th, and 10th. This is a similar storm signal to what the European model is showing. And then we get more of a Midwest and Great Lakes cutter type of storm there around the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. Finally, the GFS model transitions us into a warmer pattern. You might recall that over the last few model runs, the GFS model originally said, hey, around the 8th, we are going to move to a warmer pattern. Then yesterday it pushed that back to the 10th when it thought we would see a warmer pattern. And now it is showing the change occurring after the 12th or 13th. So it keeps pushing the timeline back by multiple days with every single new model run. This is not a good sign for confidence in some sort of a switch to warmer temperatures. Of course, it could still happen. But when we see a model continue to push an outcome further down the road like that, it is typically a sign that it may be struggling to get a handle on the pattern. We will see what ends up happening with that. Looking at the total precipitation on the European model, you would never believe we are in a La Niña pattern. This is because you have this very, very active southern jet moving through and off the East Coast, which is very characteristic of an El Niño. But you also have that Arctic air that you typically see in more of a weak La Niña or a neutral ENSO pattern popping up. And I wanted to make the argument today, just based on everything I have seen and what we now know is coming, that I feel the conditions we are seeing are much more like a neutral ENSO pattern compared to a La Niña. That is just my observation thus far. Obviously, there is a great deal of winter. Well, all of winter still ahead of us. Meteorological winter starts on December 1st in just 2 days. So there is plenty of time for things to change a bit. But for now, neutral ENSO-type conditions are much more of what we are seeing. Looking at the anomalies again, you have this active clipper track moving through here, and then you have the southern jet with the nor'easters sometimes in combination. I have to point out that we have drawn comparisons all year long to 2013. We have also compared it to 2014 and 2014 to 2015 too, of the strongest analog years for this upcoming winter. And those years featured frequent clippers and frequent nor'easters. Sometimes the two types of storms would combine where we would see a clipper system transfer its energy and redevelop off the East Coast. We call that a Miller B nor'easter, where it moves halfway off the coast and then strengthens as it moves north instead of developing fully over the ocean, up the East Coast. Regardless, it is a very interesting comparison we are seeing here. For total snowfall on the European model, it will obviously feature a great deal for the Plains, Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley, not only with our current snow system, but also with frequent clipper systems. And then we expect a lot of snowfall from the upcoming second and third systems for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And we also see another system that extends this snowfall area to more of the southern Mid-Atlantic as well. It is a truly, truly active period. The GFS model, for its part, does not include that southern nor'easter, but it does have many systems moving through the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley. We do get one or two coastal systems for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast here as well. So there is pretty good agreement between the models. I will say that concerning the temperatures, the European model is the colder of the two. We have the first Arctic blast that we are under now. The second Arctic blast is moving in for the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth of the month, and then we get our third Arctic blast here as well as our fourth by the 7th. Then our fifth, which looks more major, arrives for the 7th, 8th, and 9th. After that, it looks like we will be getting our, and I am losing count, our 5th or 6th one around the 13th and 14th. So it is very similar to yesterday's forecast, frequent Arctic blasts and frequent potential snow systems. That combination is quite a challenge. And again, I have never seen this for the first half of December in any of the winters I have been forecasting. I have seen active late Decembers and, into the January timeframe, as last year was a great example, but for early December, it has been a long time. It has been a very, very long time. The GFS model with the cold air shows Arctic blast number 1. Number 2 moves in. 3 is very intense. 4 is less intense. 5 is as well. And then 6. These are more like typical cool downs. And then we do shift to a warmer pattern here, as you can see for the 13th, 14th, and 15th, which, by the way, is approximately a couple of days further out than the date. So you are looking at the 13th or 14th day from now. Confidence is not exceptionally high in a change happening that late, although it is a signal to watch. We will monitor that for sure. The ensemble models for the 4th through the 14th here on the European ensemble model obviously show a warm pattern in the west and a cold pattern in the east, purely and simply through and through. There is no way around it. This is what this model is seeing for the 4th through the 14th. Looking at the GFS ensemble model, it does show the warmth out west very similarly. It does show some Arctic air working its way into the east, but it is less potent. It is less frequent throughout that entire time period. There is a little bit more of a southeast ridge. It is very minor, but there are obviously some warmer temperatures happening here on this model for the deep southeast. So there are small disagreements, but the whole premise of everything is pretty much the same on both these models. It is truly remarkable. With all of that being said, please be sure to subscribe, folks. We upload a new forecast every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. We would also appreciate it if you would like the video if you did enjoy it.